Hello and welcome back to Checkpoint Radio. It's episode 14. I'm with Ben, Connor and Charlie, and this is the big old Starfield chat. The long-awaited new IP from Bethesda is finally here. We've been playing it a ton and we can't wait to talk about everything we've been doing in the game so far. But before that, Charlie, welcome back. How was your holiday?
Thank you. It was amazing. Went up to Scotland, did the North Coast 500 and had the best time. And it's very close just to not coming back.
So. It's one of those kind of places, isn't it, where you kind of forget about the Monday to Friday grind, the 9 to 5, and you're just free in the wild,
living life.
Yeah.
No, one with the Highland coos.
Indeed. Yeah, amazing views. Lovely.
Oh, nice, man. Sounds good. You camped, didn't you?
Yeah. Did a bit of car camping, and then it was good. Enjoyed it.
Very nice. Well, we're glad to have you back on the show. Missed you last week. We had a stand-in. No, Kieran was here joining us for the Baldur's Gate chat.
Yeah,
he was very good, very insightful. So it's good to have him on. But
good.
Obviously, Checkpoint Radio is the four of us. We are the original crew. This is the way it's meant to be. But glad you had a nice time. Good to have you back. Ben, how are you, mate? How's your week been?
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. I've had a week off, and I've got maybe half a week left off, which is perfect. Same reasons as Charlie, who wants to go back to work. First week we were away, staying in one of those static caravans, and it was just, once again, similar to Charlie, in the wild, nature, in sort of Norwich region.
Oh, very nice.
And it was nice. Chilled, just no electronics. Dad came too, which was really cool. So it's nice.
Yeah.
All the fam.
It's funny because when I was younger and thought I was much cooler than I actually was, I never would have dreamed of going on a caravan holiday or a camping holiday. But since then, I've come to love camping. You know, I think us Brits have a great relationship with camping and caravan, and it's like just a thing that we love to do.
If you don't like it, cool. Fuck off.
When you see like some of these holidays abroad and like the same money as to go like somewhere in England, and there's places of England, although it's a small country, I've never seen. I see something on TV the other day. It's like something between Newcastle and Scotland, like that space up there. It's beautiful. Like one of the nicest beaches I've ever seen. And you associate Newcastle being cold and damp and like that.
Go explore your own back garden.
That's it. I've seen some pictures and videos of the UK looking like just super clear waters or the most gorgeous beaches that could literally be in the tropics.
Yeah, it's because where we live, you don't get waters like that. You know, facing the English Channel, it's all fucking brown.
It's all sewage,
brown and like mouldy green.
Yeah,
awesome.
Anyway, Connor, how are you, man? How's your week been?
I've just been getting through my backlog before Starfield has come out. That's what I've been doing on my spare time. I completed The Last of Us Part 2, and I just stared at my screen with my soul like shattered into a million pieces for about 5 minutes afterwards.
It's pretty brutal, that game.
Yeah. I tried out Sea of Stars, which I enjoyed.
Oh yeah,
I tried that out. I thought it was from what I played. I don't want to get too into that because I'm still playing Starfield at the moment. But I really enjoyed that. I thought it was good. What I saw.
It ran well on the Steam Deck.
I see you was on that actually. Yeah, Steam Deck. So nothing much. Just a quiet week at work, and then just obviously chipping away at games before Starfield. So.
For the
yourself, how's your week been?
Yeah, same really. I'm off now for a week, which is nice. Haven't had any time off work for ages, it feels like. But I had a real hectic kind of last week of wrapping things up before leaving for the week. So glad that's over with now. Haven't really done anything. I've literally just chilled out all weekend. Been playing Starfield, obviously, and now we're doing this podcast. A highlight of my week. You know, when we
been looking forward to this one.
Yeah, lots to say about Starfield, so I think we should waste no more time and get onto that topic right now. So, as of recording this, we are still in the early access period for Starfield, and we all have a varying amount of hours spent in the game. So this will be more of an early impressions discussion, I think, more than anything else. We know this game's a beast with potentially hundreds of hours of worth of content to enjoy, and that's before the modders get their hands on it.
Yeah.
So having said that, I think that we can just talk freely about what we've experienced so far, our likes, dislikes, impressions, where we think the game might be heading. Before that, though, I just want to say that this won't be an entirely spoiler-free chat. So if you really don't want to know anything about Starfield whatsoever, then switch off now, and we'll see you next week. But if you don't mind sticking around to see what we've got to say about it, then you're welcome to stay. So anyway, I guess we just have an open and free discussion about it. Does anyone want to go first? Anyone got a big point they want to kind of make to start off with?
Yeah, where to begin? I might start with, or unless you want to start, Charlie.
No, you can. Oh, yeah.
We'll say mine's performance. What's yours?
Mine was just going to be an initial
gut reaction.
I'll just let's feed off of what I'm about to say.
Yeah, let's start with our gut reactions. Charlie, you go first.
I was going to say straight off the bat, it seems in quite a good state. It's a pretty good release, I'd say, for the most part. I mean, I've only encountered one or maybe two bugs so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think, when you look at other AAA releases, that's not that bad.
No.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I haven't really experienced anything, at least not I would consider game breaking or immersion breaking. I actually don't think I've seen anything weird or bugs at all.
I've seen a couple of bugs, and I've had one crash. In the grand scheme of things, I think I've maybe played 40 hours. Maybe slightly less.
Jesus.
Anyway, I've just been on it, mate. Probably half of that's AFK, not gonna lie. But yeah, I had this one bug where this one was hilarious. The UC police in New Atlantis were all naked.
Really?
They were all walking around in their pants and bra and knickers. And this other bug was, I had Sarah Morgan with me, and she did some mental jump, from, I don't know, 3 stories, no jump pack. It was mund. I don't know if it's a bug or just like a weird glitch. And I had the one crash. So yeah, like Charlie said, as far as sort of brand new AAA titles go, it's not been too bad in that regard. The only real gripe I've had, not the only, but one of the gripes that I've had is just performance. It's not terrible, and I can understand why it may be not as good as we'd like, which I'm sure we'll get into, but it's just not I'm not trying to brag. I've got a 4090, I've got a 3900K. You couldn't really get much better. And if my system couldn't and can't run it amazingly, then I don't know. What's it like on everyone else's system?
There will be a system out there that can run it better than yours, Ben, because that system will have an AMD graphics card in it, because we know that Bethesda have a partnership with AMD for this release. There's no DLSS in the game. For non-PC gamers who are kind of listening now, these are basically 2 technologies that help with performance in these games. Bethesda have a deal with, or some sort of marketing deal with AMD, where they're kind of promoting Starfield as an AMD optimized game, if that's what you want to call it. The omission of DLSS is quite a big thing for gamers. Nvidia by far, they're the graphics card sort of maker. Their graphics cards are probably in more PCs than anyone else's, AMD and Intel's combined. So it's a bit of a strange one for us. There's already been a mod out to kind of mod DLSS into the game, but it's not really working. I don't think.
I don't understand Bethesda's thinking here, because PC gamers, especially their last 2 releases, have made those games any fucking good. Fallout 4 was terrible when it came out, and PC gamers have modded it and made it a brilliant game, and they've just isolated one portion of their PC gamers for a deal with AMD, which they've got more money than God over there. They don't need to do a marketing deal.
They don't need a partnership. They don't. I feel to carry on your point, James, I just find it such a strange decision. The majority of PC gamers use NVIDIA cards. Therefore, the majority of gamers playing your game will be playing on NVIDIA cards, which isn't supported with their upscaling technology, which means the majority of gamers are going to be getting a subpar performance, which means the majority of the reviews are going to be subpar because they're going to be complaining about their performance. It's just backwards.
Yeah. It's a really weird one. Apparently as well, AMD, especially to some of the newer AMD cards, are getting as much as 20% in performance increase over NVIDIA cards, which, you know, when you kind of look at some of the performance in the game at the moment, isn't actually that much more considerable, because my experience with the game in terms of performance is I can hit above or hit more than 60 frames per second. I'm playing at 4K as well in most areas. So it's okay, but then when you get to like populated places, the performance like seriously tanks, and it can dip as low as the 30s on occasion as well.
Have you been to Neon yet?
I haven't been to Neon yet, no.
I think that's going to cause issues like for a lot of people, because it's so highly populated, and it's like their version of like Night City, like a little bit smaller, and it's a lot of people, a lot of lights and stuff. I think people are going to have real issues there.
Yeah, I'm not like excusing it at all, but I don't think it's as big of a problem on PC, because I feel like there will be performance patches that will be released, and I think modders as well are going to do wonders with this game. Like the potential for this game for modders is insane. Where the game, I think, is like being quite successful with performances on console, because on the Series X and the S, it runs at a solid 30 frames per second, supposedly, which is obviously good for console gamers, because they're going to get a consistent experience in terms of performance.
That's it. I mean,
it's
we
just a shame
discussed
that we
this...
can't kind of have that with PC as well.
No, exactly. We discussed this briefly earlier, didn't we, James? Where we understand maybe the thinking on behalf of Bethesda, because obviously their goal is to make sure everybody can run it at 30 and then worry about anything post 30 later. So make sure everything and every console and everyone can run it at least 30. Obviously, this is a huge game, massive undertaking. I'm not going to say they're the first ones to do everything that they've done, but I'm going to say maybe they're the first ones to do a combination of everything that they've done. And obviously, none of us are developers. We don't know what it's like to actually make a game, but you can imagine the amount of systems and technologies and new engine and graphics, and it's going to be a massive amount of code in the background that's all in simulating the galaxies and so on. So I get it. It's just a shame. And like I think you might have said, James, like I'm learning to live with it for now. Like I started a new game, and because I felt like my first playthrough, I was playing around with the controls, learning all the different buttons, learning how to use all the HUD and everything, as well as trying to optimize my graphics. I started a new save, and I've kind of forgotten about all those problems, and I've actually really enjoyed it this time.
Yeah. It's the only kind of major thing for me is the performance at the moment. Like I will be disappointed if at least by the end of the year they haven't released a big patch that addresses a lot of the performance issues with the game, because I feel like that they can, you know, get it to a stage where it is acceptable for PC gamers. Because not to be sort of like all PC, like, but we live in a different environment and game in a different environment compared to console players. Our expectations of games on PC is so much more different to consoles. The performance is why you play on PC. Like performance is the be all and end all.
Yeah, I spent literally, once again, definitely not trying to brag. We all have spent a lot of money on our computers. And we didn't spend that amount of money to play a game at 30 frames. Anyway.
No, exactly.
And the thing is, if they hadn't have done this deal with AMD and they've put out DLSS and an AMD, the AMD equivalent, I'm not too savvy over that side.
FSR.
Yeah.
In a year where PC ports and PC games have been woeful for the most part, performance-wise, obviously Starfield's going to sell units anyway. It would be a massive standout. But like you say, Ben, like, I've had a couple of immersion breaking things. I was in a dogfight, and then two like civilian ships are spinning around like Beyblades going across my screen. I'm just like, what the fuck? And I did a mission earlier with Sam Coe, and he's in and out of a wall, like shaking like this, and he's talking to me, and he looks like he's headbanging the wall, and I'm just like, come on. They're the only two like issues I've had, but for a Bethesda game, that's pretty good. But
the Bethesda jank.
They get graded on a curve.
So. Why do Bethesda get away with it though? Because why are these bugs in the game and like no one really cares? Everyone just thinks, oh, that's the Bethesda charm. Why?
I don't know. It's bugged me for a long time, because me and James had a discussion the other evening. I was about this, and I'm a relapsed Bethesda fan. Like Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. and Oblivion I thought was a great game. But like I've seen where gaming's gone, like since like Fallout 3 was brilliant at the time, but you try and play that game now and it's like pulling teeth. And I love that game. But Skyrim came out, obviously sold the units it's done. I think it's the world building. People love their worlds, so they sort of, it's like Stockholm syndrome, James, because you've already said in this like impressions discussion, it's like I've got used to it, or I'm getting used to it.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think
just
it's
like
because
you
each
see
one of their
you see the potential, you see what you can do in the world, and you're like, oh, I've got to deal with that fucking menu. Oh, yes, that's fine because I want to do this.
That's it, because they are kind of like pioneers, and each one of their main games has always kind of pushed gaming further in its own kind of field.
I think that's a fair comment to make as well, because I feel like a lot of the discourse that's going on with Starfield at the moment, people forget the level that we talked really in depth about Larian in the last episode, setting expectations and raising the standards for Baldur's Gate. Like we can't forget what Bethesda have done for the Western RPG over the years. Like they have released some incredible games, and because of games like Oblivion and Morrowind and Fallout and stuff like that, there are so many kind of like not imitations but versions of those games that exist today in some form or another. They just can't match what Bethesda have done. So I will defend them in that regard. Like, yes, their games are often broken and buggy as shit, but no, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Starfield's a mess, because I don't think it is. Can the performance be improved? Yeah, I think it can, but it's by far the most solid game Bethesda have released in terms of its performance, like easily.
It's not even close.
I think it's probably the best game that they've released. I'm talking like just Bethesda Softworks. I'm not talking about them as a publisher, because obviously you got the likes of Doom and Dishonored, amazing games.
Yeah, because didn't you go back and play all the Fallouts as well at one point? Didn't you?
So I've got quite a relatively fresh anyway, experience of like Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4, and I kind of had to defend those games in my mind a little bit, similar to how we're defending Starfield in regards to its jank and stuff, because I'm playing those games way past their release date. And I have to imagine this isn't a brand new game. I can't judge this game like it's a brand new game. So I kind of considered the jankiness and the sort of dodgy graphics and, you know what I mean, the weird conversation, everything that makes their games unique. And I feel like comparing Fallout, because Fallout is the best comparison to Starfield I think you can possibly make, because obviously you can't really compare Skyrim too much. But anyway, I just feel like Starfield has pushed like gaming further than any other game they've done, because obviously you consider certain game elements such as the space travel, and you could say about No Man's Sky, and then you've got obviously like the combat, and probably Fallout's the best comparison to make. But I was having a conversation with my brother around the table, because he's waiting for the game to come out on the 6th, and he said he wasn't too impressed from what he saw. But I was like, you have to remember that, like, No Man's Sky, you can seamlessly travel from space to a planet and land and so on. But I was like, where's the story? That game's got zero story. And then you can compare lots of other elements of Starfield that lots of other games have done really well, but Starfield has just like been the whole package. And to be honest, I didn't think I'd jump on this podcast and defend Starfield as much as I have done, but I am really enjoying it. So
let's getting into the game specifically, you bring it up there, Ben, and I wanted to talk about the traversal and the exploration in the game, because once again, this is a kind of bone of contention or a hot topic for many people that are playing the game and seeing the game in this kind of early access period. This is a question to all of you, but were any of you surprised by the lack of space travel? Were you disappointed? What are your thoughts on that?
Go on, Charlie, if you want to go.
Yeah, I will say I was a bit surprised. Like, I knew going into it that you couldn't land or, take off from a planet and fly up to space yourself. I knew that.
Yeah.
But, like, I didn't realise that you couldn't fly, I don't know, from one planet orbit to another planet orbit myself. And I know that throughout playing this game, that would become. I wouldn't be doing that all the time because who's got time for that? But I'd like to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I was a bit surprised that you couldn't.
I think, once again, I'm going to defend them here a little bit. Considering the scope of the game,
No, I can't. No Man's Sky come out on the PS4 7 years ago, and I'm not saying you should be able to fly from one system to the other. But if there's a cluster of planets, you should be able to fly to them.
I definitely think so. I'm just thinking that I don't think the developers didn't want to. I think it must have been some technical. And I know they're a massive billion-dollar studio with endless resources.
Maybe there was a limitation with what they could do at the end of the day, because if you want to have all the in-depth, character creation and the in-depth story and all of the missions, like we literally before we jumped on this to do this podcast, we were talking about how many side quests and activities there were. If you want all of that, all the ship customization and ship building, the crafting, if you want all that, then can you have that and also have
seamless
space travel? I don't know, because I'm not a developer. I'm not privy to this stuff. But these are questions that I think are worth asking at the end of the day, because there's a reason why they didn't have that in the game. And I completely agree with what you just said, Ben, that if they wanted it in the game, I mean, they probably did want it in the game at some point.
No way
I realised that they couldn't make it work in the way that they wanted to, so they ditched it instead.
Because how couldn't they? It's not as if they didn't think of it.
It's a space exploration game, and they've advertised that. So I can completely understand why some people are upset by it, because they have. It's weird because like you think about to some of the wordage that they've used and some of the phrases that they've used to describe space travel in this game, and you get the impression that you can fully take off from the surface of a planet, go to space, you see a moon over there, and you can go to that moon. You don't need to go through a variety of menus and maps to get to that place. Screens. But then secondly to that, if you go back and watch the direct, they will literally show you a whole sequence of moving around an area of space, unedited, and it includes everything we've seen from the game as it is. But if you're watching it for the first time, it looks like they've cut it down. They've cut down the actual travel. But no, they're just showing you this is actually how it goes down. And I think that maybe caught a lot of people off guard.
And I totally see your point, Connor, because it's like No Man's Sky did it. A small independent developer.
See, we're not developers in that, but I think the 1,000 planets has restricted them massively. I would have preferred.
Would you prefer like 100 planets?
250, and 50 of them were, I don't know.
Handcrafted.
Yeah, and then obviously because I appreciate what they've done, and I think there's a lot of potential there, and I do eventually think we'll probably get a DLC and they'll expand, but
or a mod.
Yeah, there'll be people are going to be putting like Krypton into Starfield and stuff like that soon. Like the mod's going to be crazy, but I just think Todd Howard's hyperbole get them into trouble. He does it. Fallout 4, you can do all this, and then you get to the game, you can do half of it.
It just works.
And like throughout the press release, every publication, IGN, GameSpot, Polygon, whoever, the old man down the street was saying it's like No Man's Skyrim, and Bethesda didn't come out and say once, no, we can't do that.
Those expectations.
No, and then
but then again, maybe they thought we'll just play the game and you'll see what kind of game we've made, because I think that is a big thing as well. I think that, like, I've read a few reviews of the game, and a lot of people kind of say that, and I agree with this. If you've played a Bethesda game before, you'll know what type of game. Star Citizen, you know what type of game Starfield is.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that now that I've played the game and I've spent sort of like 15 hours working it out at the beginning and like trying out all the different mechanics and stuff and actually understanding how space travel works. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. I think people's imagination, mine especially, you start to picture what's possible in your own mind. And even if they've said it or not, you're setting your own expectations. And then you obviously get your hands on the game. But the only thing that really annoyed me the most, I haven't tried it myself personally, but, you know, there was this one person who tweeted a Bethesda dev saying like, oh, so can I literally just like land on the planet and just keep walking in a certain direction? And the developer replied back saying like, yup, get your boots on or something like that. So my expectation was that I could land on a planet, press W and then come back in 20 minutes and I might have done a full like walk around the entire planet. It's not like that.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing where the developer had almost confirmed it, like you said, Connor, the wordage. But
Bethesda have got into trouble before, and Todd Howard and Pete Hines are very good salesmen, but I've been burnt by them a few times, so I tempered my expectations.
Yeah, you did from day one.
And I think the game's great, by the way. I'm starting to love it. I'm liking it, but I've been burnt before. So even if they're sitting there going, "Oh yeah, you can shit on a pot of gold," it's like, okay, like, okay, I'll see when it comes out.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I do think they get carried away with themselves, and I still think the engine is way better than the first iteration, but there are limitations to this engine, and I think they'd be limited if they went into Unreal. They'd still have the same problem or whatever engine. So I think 1,000 planets, cut it down to 250. 50 of them were habitable, and then 200 of them were procedurally generated.
Yeah,
because I don't
more refined experience. I don't even think I'm going to explore 200 planets in this game.
The only issue I had is I've had this as well, but there's a guy on YouTube called Luke Stevens, I think his name is, and he does like critical reviews. He's very, very good. And he did a skeptical review of Starfield, and he did a spreadsheet of like how many bases he's been that are exactly the same. Things are in the same place. Spaces are in the same place. And I've played the game just over 10 hours. And I've been to the same base twice, and it had the same enemies. It was in the same thing. And
interesting. I haven't experienced that myself.
And it's not a bad thing, because you play like the Skyrim dungeons and stuff like that. They're very much the same. But it's just, I think if they'd shrunk the scope a little bit, it could have been a bit more personable. Or
because I suppose like with a enemy base or like a dungeon in Starfield, like to try and make enough of those to spread it across 1,000 planets and not make it the same thing like twice, that's difficult. But making more of them and spreading it out across 100 planets is just more variety and more kind of like surprise for the gamers that are playing. And
so
I definitely I fully agreed that I think the game should be smaller than what it is. I think that they could have crafted a real sort of like, sort of tailored experience in that sense. But then again, that's not Bethesda's style. So we can say that all we want and wish that the game was more kind of tailored and crafted all we want, but that's just not what they do. Their games are all about you go out there and you find your own adventure.
I will come to their defense a little bit, and it's I think the game will be very different in 2 to 3 years' time. It feels weird defending Bethesda because I have so many issues with that company, but they've already got a DLC in the works, which has been like sort of confirmed, not confirmed. Yeah. They will put out 3 or 4 big DLC downloads for this game at some point. So I don't know if that will include like new dungeons and stuff like that, or new caves and stuff like that. So it's a weird one with Bethesda, because like I'm very shocked that people are reviewing it after 2 weeks, and with any other game you'd think, oh, that's understandable, but
with a game this large,
especially with like New Game Plus and stuff like that, Bethesda games, people are going to be playing this game for a decade and finding things they've never seen before. So
well, look at fucking Skyrim, man. Like, how many times has Skyrim been re-released, and how many people are still, after all these years, still playing Skyrim? Because to them, like, Skyrim is the ultimate way of you living out your fantasy in like that kind of fantasy setting, the same way like we talk about Red Dead Redemption, and like so many people play it, myself included, still play it now because it's the ultimate way for me to live out a Wild West fantasy. And I think for Starfield, like that, I quickly came to sort of that thought with Starfield as well at the beginning, where I just thought I'm going to be able to live out like my spacefaring kind of adventures that I would never be able to do in my own life. Exactly.
That's it.
Space trucker, space cowboy, that I wouldn't be able to do in real life because I was born 800 years too early.
Yeah. And it is, isn't it? I mean, I think we might have mentioned it in the previous episode, but like Skyrim was a decade-long game. People have been playing that game for 10 years.
100% it's going to be the same for Starfield.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, the interesting thing is, I remember reading an interview with Todd Howard. Like, Starfield was a happy accident that people were playing that game for that long. Starfield has been designed
Skyrim,
to be played for that long. Yeah, sorry. Skyrim was a
Yeah.
happy accident that it was played for that long. Skyrim has been designed to be played for the next 10 years.
Interesting.
And so on. Shall we change it up and go with stuff that we do personally really like about the game?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got. Go on.
No, you go.
You go.
Mine was going to be the like NASA punk style.
Oh, do you know what? They have absolutely nailed the aesthetic of the game, I think. Like, so hard. And it's one of the best sort of like just imaginings of a world or a universe, I should say, in any game I've ever seen. Like, everything is so detailed and it's so imaginative, and it's kind of like, it's so, you know when you play like Mass Effect, for example, you know that world that they live in does not fucking categorically does not exist. You know that. But then you look at like Starfield and think this could be the way we live in 500 years time or 1,000 years time or whatever, when we are eventually a spacefaring race of people. It's just so
not too
kind of like
far-fetched.
Yeah, it's just so grounded in like realism. I'm not talking about the powers you unlock. Sorry, spoiler. I'm talking about like the actual design of just stuff in the game. You know, the way the kind of cities operate, the way, you know, there's planets that have got like fucking space cowboys and shit on them. Like, it's just so kind of immersive from that aspect. And that's one of the things that really hooked me straight away. And even though I was struggling with like certain mechanics in the game and the clunkiness of the menu and stuff, just looking at the game and the aesthetics of and the design of everything, that is what kept me in it. Yeah. And that's what hooked me straight away from the beginning. I love the way it looks. I think it's so well designed.
That's it. Like the weapons, for instance, in lots of games, like laser weapons are usually very much over the top. But like that first sort of laser rifle that you get very much feels like it probably could be a thing. It's massive and it's chunky. It's not like super micro mini laser. It's like a big thing. Obviously, the ship design, the way all the components look and the way they all go together, and the fact that there's like different manufacturers and they have their own look and so on, and just so much thought has gone into the design of everything. So yeah, love it. I loved Harry Potter, for instance. That was an amazing game where
Hogwarts Legacy.
You could walk into any room and it really felt like they spent so much time detailing, designing everything. I do feel like they've had that with Starfield.
Yeah, 100%. Connor, Charlie, thoughts?
The dialogue has impressed me.
Really?
Yeah, just like I played a lot of Fallout 4. I was trying to make myself love that game and it didn't work. But like the dialogue options, what I like is specifically they've gone back to the silent protagonist. Yeah. Because in Fallout 4 it would give you that 4 branching options to choose and it'd be sarcastic or whatever. And you could never tell what you're gonna say. So you'd go, I want to give this response, and it would go one way. It would go left when you wanted it to go right, for example.
Yeah.
Like, and so that just the little things. You'll talk to, like I went and spoke to a couple of potential crew members earlier, and they've all got their little sort of personalities. I like the idea that companions can speak for you as well. I think that's a good option. The persuasion thing, I've had issues with just getting.
I couldn't work out how that works.
So
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's a point system. But
you have to fill up the bar.
But
then even when I was choosing like the kind of safer options, if you know what I mean, like the green options,
it doesn't always work.
Yeah, they were just going no.
Yeah.
They've gone. It's very similar to the one that was in Oblivion. Oblivion had this wheel, and you had to choose like I don't know if it was flirt or bribe and stuff like this. It's very similar to that. So, and I've been impressed that my issues with the Elder Scrolls games is I've started with Oblivion, and then Skyrim was I don't want to say dumbed down version, but it was just a lighter version of an RPG. And I think the same between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 is it got less complicated, and it's just like Fallout 4 is like just pick everything up and you can go and make stuff. There are more RPG elements in this game, similar back to like Oblivion and Fallout 3. which they sort of stepped away from. I think they tried to make Skyrim and Fallout 4 accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you want to play this game and just excuse me, want to play this game and run and gun, you can do that. But a lot of missions, like I played a mission earlier where I didn't have to shoot anything. I just went and spoke, and that's my
I've
sort
had
of
situations like that as well.
I love that in RPGs where you can sit there and go. Obviously, in this game, you're gonna have to kill a load of things, but if I'm given the pacifist option and then that makes sense, I like taking that option.
Yeah.
So that's been a surprise to me. So I've enjoyed that.
Yeah. Charlie, what's been the standout for you? What parts of the game have you enjoyed the most?
I think mainly just exploring.
Yeah.
I've not really done too much of the main sort of storyline. But I think the worlds they look good.
Yeah.
I think graphically it's quite a good game. Yeah, all the aesthetics, like you were saying before, like
NASA punk.
it's not too far fetched. Like you could see it being realistic.
I want to ask you, Charlie, because this isn't your type of game. This isn't your wheelhouse generally. And obviously, thank you for getting it early, by the way. Like,
big spend.
Do you see yourself playing this for like 50, 60 hours or even more? Or do you think you do the story and dip?
Because like you said before we went live, you felt a bit overwhelmed. Obviously, this game, like you said, Connor, this is going back to old school RPG, loads of choices and stuff. For you, Charlie, that is maybe quite overwhelming.
Yeah, I'll run through my initial impressions so I started playing it yesterday. Initially, I found it quite overwhelming. I don't feel like it's very...
It's not user-friendly at all.
No, it's not user-friendly. It's not that intuitive like all of
I agree with that.
Like user interface and game mechanics. I don't think... It's not immediately obvious what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Then couple that with the fact that there's so many missions, so many side missions. I quite like a linear game. And I was speaking to my brother yesterday after playing for maybe a couple of hours. And I sort of thought, I'm probably not going to go very far with this game. However, after playing a bit more yesterday and a bit more this morning, I'm starting to kind of get it.
Yeah.
And I do feel like I'll continue to play.
I will. I'm happy about that.
That's really interesting as well.
I will give a warning to anyone who's... I probably should have said this at the beginning. The first 3 to 5, 6 hours are a fucking slog.
Yeah.
And it's very like hold your hand. And I think me and James, we spoke the other night. You said, and you put me on Discord as well, you finally had that stepping out moment. And that's what's missing from the opening game, because obviously Fallout 3, you do a little tutorial at the beginning, you leave the vault and you can go 360 degrees, you can go and do what you want. Skyrim's the same, you escape from that dragon and stuff like that, get out of the cave, go where you want. There's not that in this. It's very much, we're going to hold your hand for 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then it slowly opens up, and then it slowly opens up again. So that is difficult. And I had the same issues, Charlie. I think the UI is clunky. Like you're in and out of the menu a lot. And I've played Bethesda games since like 2006, 2007. And there's still things I'm sitting there going, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Like,
but is it like even like say the scanner? I don't know whether I missed like a prompt or something to realise that the scanner's important, or that it...
No, I don't think that...
I feel like you use the scanner for quite a lot.
Yeah,
like if you want to fast travel to your ship, say, you whap the scanner out. I didn't know that. It was only reading like Discord messages from you talking about scanning like the planets, and I was like, scanner?
Yeah. I think the game, the first time, when you have to go to that compound towards the beginning, the game does give you like a scanner prompt then, the first time you see some alien life and so on. And then you need to, it tells you, you can get up the scanner now and you can TP back to your ship if you hold whatever on it.
Yeah.
But it does give you a prompt, but it might have just been one of those things where you were learning the game, so when another new learning thing pops up, it's like,
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah,
But,
possibly. Yeah.
With the it's a lot of like the stuff that I've kind of the tips and stuff or questions that I've answered for you, Charlie. It's not like I've been paying super loads of attention to prompts and stuff that come up in the game, because whenever I play a game, I like to try and push it and like break it when I
work
first
it
get on it,
out.
see what I can do with the game. So I think that if you're one of these people who expects there to be sort of like, this is precisely how you do this, and this is like it literally a step-by-step tutorial, some of those aspects might be missing, but then the game does like limit you to a few things to do, like you were saying kind of at the beginning, just to get your sort of bearings. But my only advice would be to people that are sort of thinking about playing the game or confused by the beginning is press everything, try everything, go as far as you want or not, and just do whatever you can, because the more you sort of just play the game, the more things will start to make sense. And we kind of mentioned it a minute ago, the stepping out of the vault moment for me, it was going back to the Sol system and going to the moon, like our moon. When I did that sort of by myself and worked out how to do it, I had the moment where I stepped off the ship and just looked at space from the surface of the moon and was like, wow, like I know exactly what I'm in for now with this game. That was the moment for me where it all just sort of like started to click and everything sort of turned from there.
That's it. And as well, there is a help section in the pause menu that I do still use now, just for like quick tips, reminders, even like, I just missed the pop-up that was obviously telling me something useful that I'd completely missed because it was on screen for about 2 seconds. So you pretty much everything that I've questioned is explained in the help section, which is quite good.
Also, one tip that James brought up the other day, which replying to you, Charlie, I think, next to your cockpit, there's a little thing on the wall. It's where you put all your
like the storage,
because the amount of times I've been over encumbered is ridiculous, because I'm sitting there walking around with a load of like uranium on me, and I didn't realise where to fucking get rid of it, and I'm just like, oh my god.
So
there are definitely go on, Ben.
I was going to move on.
I was going to sort of change. Okay, go on.
I was just going to say, what's your opinions on combat? Obviously, a massive portion of this game is fighting and armed warfare. What's your opinions on that overall sort of massive aspect of the game?
I think it's better than what I've previously experienced from Bethesda games, but it's not incredible. It's nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't know if I'm underpowered or what, but some of the enemies, it's like they take so many fucking bullets to kill, and it's like I'm emptying like magazine after magazine into them.
Yeah,
and
especially the ones that have like 3 health bars.
Yeah. They've got like shield, then a health bar, then a shield, then a health bar. It's just, I don't know what, I know it's like an RPG and that there are elements of like tweaking your builds and making yourself more powerful. And with your guns as well, they can have different things that you could put modifications and stuff on them that give them different, specs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm so early in the game, I'm just like using all the vanilla stuff. And it's like, well, if you actually modded that, you can kill someone.
But that's the thing, like, and as well, I'm going for like more of a stealthy build. I picked like the Ronin trait or background, and it gave me stealth as one of my beginning ones. So I was like, well, I'm going to try and at least play stealthily. But obviously, because the enemies are so tanky, like the first few times that I tried to successfully stealth, there's a guy over there. I'm lining up a headshot, bang him straight in the head, and it's like, boom, like just. I don't know, a centimetre of health has gone. Everybody's alerted. And I don't know. I know that's typical Bethesda. That's been the case in all their games. And you're going to need some OP gun that does incredible single bullet damage. But I don't know. That's a little bit
I've heard like the stealth sniper build's meant to be like really
insane.
Good. Yeah. I think the AI is dumb as shit. I've been next to a dude and he's going, "Oh, we'll find you." It's like... shotgun blast to the face, and then the shotgun's really good.
You now. Yeah.
So the shotgun's like 2 hits, or a headshot will just. But if you're not a tank build, then you're done in for.
The Coachman double barrel shotgun.
Yeah. I found a quad.
Yeah, I've got the one with
I haven't found that.
4 rounds.
That sounds best.
I need to find that.
So the AI is awful. Which I think they'll patch anyway. So the combat, it feels a bit floaty. I know obviously it's in space, but like I I like games where the guns feel heavier.
Yeah,
and it's a bit like the aiming's a bit snappier. With Starfield, it's like what were we playing recently where I was like the aiming just feels really weird and like it might have been Redfall actually, another Bethesda game, but the
we don't talk about Redfall.
no, forbidden. But yeah, this like, on Starfield, it's like I'm not like I don't think I'm a bad PC player. Like if I jump on a game like Overwatch, for example, I click on heads, it's easy. But like with Starfield, it's just like I don't know what it is. It's like I'm aiming at the fucking head of this guy, and he's running. It's like that should be doming this motherfucker who's running across this cavern. It's just like
I think the accuracy of the actual weapon is something to do with that.
Yeah,
because I'll put 2 shots in the same place. One will hit, one goes off.
Yeah,
I think that's just part of the
design. I also found the controls
I'm not mad
in
at the
combat
guns.
So I also have the melee perk as part of being a Ronin. So I was like, well, again, I'm going to try and encourage myself to use a lot more melee. If you're sprinting towards an enemy with your machete out and you left click to attack, it stops you moving. And then you have to left click again to attack. There's no fluid
jump attack or like rush attack type thing.
It's not like he's sprinting and he does like a sprint slice. He's sprinting, you left click, he'll stop sprinting, and then you have to left click again. So I feel like the controls are a bit clunky.
I've heard
fluidity.
Two reviews now. I've like spoiler-free reviews. I was just trying to get the initial impressions of the game. Sort of the day it came out, and I couldn't play it. I was at work on a break. The melee builds have been like completely fucking nerfed. Because
really?
If do you remember the thing where the guy's showing off? It's great when I make melee builds
people.
and he's just fucking punching people in the face and they're dying and stuff like that. None of that. It's
they actually tweaked the way the melee builds work. Then do you think?
Yeah, because in older Bethesda games, the melee's like you could technically finish the game with like melee builds and stuff like that. But I've been trying to hit people like the butt of my gun, and I stop and they run off, and then you're doing this. It's very clunky.
Well, that's because I also wanted to try and do a bit of stealth and melee. Because you think about Skyrim, if you had a dagger and you were stealth,
and you got a sneak attack on them, it's
like a one bang.
OP.
Yeah,
I can't get near anyone.
No.
Trying to sneak up near them.
Yeah,
I'm like,
especially if you're with a companion as well.
Oh, the companions.
They just start shooting. It's so annoying.
I was in this cave before we went on to this podcast with Sam, and I was like sneaking in. There was 3 enemies ahead, all facing the opposite direction. I was creeping up the side. Sam comes fucking running in like a freak. He didn't spoil my stealth, but he obviously spoiled everyone's positioning, and they're all shooting, and I was still stealthed, but it was very...
Ben, quick question. As a father, what do you think of Sam's child?
Weird.
I want to throw her into space.
When you meet them in the Constellation HQ and he's like, she's a little package, but she's, I don't know, I can't remember word for word what he says. Yeah. I was like, didn't think it was his daughter. I just thought he was some perv. And then it's his daughter and it's like, ooh, that's even worse.
Some fucking child that he's trafficking. He's trafficking his fucking child.
She's the most annoying character in the game and I just want to throw her out of an airlock.
Just space her.
Is he the guy that voices...
I did.
I think, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. He's fucking jokes, mate. He's so funny. Like, you can go up to him, right, and you can say, I don't think your level of fan has been high enough. I want you to increase it. And he's like, oh, yes, certainly, I can increase it for you. Then he'll just start showering you with compliments and stuff. And he's like, what? And he'll say things like, oh, it's so nice to walk behind you. And he's like, oh, well, I suppose you don't walk because angels float, don't they? It's proper cringe, but it's so funny. And I just take him everywhere with me and he just cracks these like little one-liners. I just have me in stitches sometimes. It's so good.
I think the guy who voices Sam's the same guy that voices the guy in Deus Ex, I think.
I do recognise the
Deacon.
voice. He's got...
Oh, Deus Ex. Why did I think of fucking... What's I thinking of? Days Gone. Yeah.
Days Gone. Deacon St. John or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Who played... was it Starkiller or whatever his name?
Oh, all right.
What builds have you gone for, actually? Because I don't know everyone's...
you kick us off.
I've gone for like a bounty hunter. playing as a woman named a Winter, and I'm just going to be a smuggler, dude. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to do some of the main quests. I'm like 6,000 credits off of getting a new ship, and then I'm just going to start smuggling.
What are you going to buy a whole new ship?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That Frontier is a pile of crap.
I've customized the shit out.
Yeah,
of my
I've
Frontier
proper customized my Frontier as well, but I just whacked like the fucking gnarliest like engines and shit I could put on it, and all the weapon system and stuff. And now it's like, I've got a whole crew. I don't do anything. They just chill there, and I just go blow everything up.
Yeah.
I've got into too many dogfights, and I'm just getting absolutely smashed to smithereens. I hate it. It's so clunky. Also, the shipbuilding, there should have been a tutorial for that.
Yeah.
That needs a whole fucking tutorial itself. Like, it's so complicated.
Something that James and I spoke about, you need like a preview of like the interiors of the habs, yeah. Because when you're picking like the all-in-one or the infirmary or the armory, and he's like, cool, I kind of imagine what that might look like, but what is it? Like some of them include certain benches and there's a load of other UI that's missing and whatnot.
Yeah,
but anyway, back to your question. Oh, sorry, James.
I was just going to say that because just to wrap up that point, I swapped out the main kind of living space of the Frontier for something a bit bigger because I wanted more crew. So I just chose the one that had like available crew 4, whatever it was. Yeah. And but then like you lose the star map table. Yeah. And then you lose the bed, and I used the bed a lot. I'd often go back to the ship and just sleep in the bed to refuel like my health and stuff. But yeah, you can't see what's inside these spaces. A lot of it's like cosmetic and doesn't really sort of like matter. But the bed for me was like something that I used a lot, so it's a bit annoying that you can't look inside it.
Yeah, I mean, especially when there's so much choice. But yeah, my character Connor. So I went for the Ronin one, which was like he's a mercenary. Because I was like, well, thinking about how I'm going to be playing this game, I am going to be running around, taking on many tasks and missions, killing people without second thought. I need to pick like a background that kind of suits that, someone who'd be up and willing to take on dangerous missions. So the Ronin one to me felt like, yeah, he is a mercenary for hire. He will complete your contract that you need him to do. And that came with the stealth, the melee weapon, and the looting scavenging perks. And then I've picked the hunted one, so that because I was thinking, well, if he's a mercenary who's done some shady stuff, he's obviously ruffled some wrong feathers and he's got like pissed some big boss off. So I get hunted occasionally, which is kind of interesting. They either ambush you in space or they land near you on a planet. I've got the neon street rat, so I was like, well, if he's a shady guy, he must have had a shady past. And then I'm actually as well a serpent worshipper.
You've gone for all the perks, all the traits.
Yeah.
Fully
and the
fleshed
serpent
out
worshipper
characters.
is quite. Yeah, the serpent worshipper is quite good. It's like 4 hours in real time. As long as you make regular jumps within like 4 real-time hours, you'll have like a permanent health and oxygen or something else buff.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So. What's yours, Charlie? Your character bio?
So I went with the long hauler.
Space trucker.
Space trucker.
Are you going to get one of those massive, like, beefy
big rig
ships?
Yeah.
I tried to build one, and I had some issues building.
Yeah.
I built
it costs a lot as well to build a big ship.
Well, I had the money to do what I wanted. So pretty much, I because there was no sort of tutorial, I obviously had my ship as a bit of like a blueprint to be like, right, I need this, and this, but I was just doing it bigger and better, really. But then I had some like, I don't know, some message. It was like a ship contains modules that exceed reactor class or something. But it doesn't tell you what the problem items are.
Oh, right, okay.
So I couldn't like.
Did I like highlight them in red or something when you're looking? Nothing.
No.
That's a bit annoying.
Man, there may be a way to do that, but I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up just scrapping that. I'm still using
that's just like there's definitely some quality of life issues with the game that could massively be improved. Like that's one of them right there. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a tutorial or like a a checklist of like, you need this, 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 and this.
I agree
You have the
with that.
flight checklist. If you press, I think it's C,
C.
Yeah.
you can see what you've.
But it should just be in the right hand side as part of the user interface.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
Yeah.
the module that's incorrect just glow red.
yeah.
I can't think of it now, but it's like when you're building the ship, I feel like there should just be an easier menu to find, like, I don't know, habs or. Whereas I'm like, right, I can't remember what you have to press, but
Just
finding like a
scrolling
little,
through, like, oh my
yeah,
God, like,
it's just a bit.
It's very clunky.
Clunky,
I'll be
yeah.
interested to see how all the menus work on a controller, because obviously you don't have anywhere near as many keys as what you do on a keyboard, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see how they get around that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to it, so my starting skills are weightlifting, so I can carry more stuff. Still constantly over encumbered,
Yeah.
but piloting, so I can fly more types of spacecraft straight off the bat, and then ballistic weapon systems. But I've not upgraded anything in the ship, so I still get smashed. But yeah,
Ship combat.
I can't remember if I
like ship
chose
combat.
any of the
The traits.
like, yeah. I think I may have chosen one, but I can't remember what it was.
Fair.
Yeah,
They just seem to all have a negative.
Yeah,
Which I was
that's
like,
why I
I
stayed
don't really
away.
know whether it's worth.
Yeah. The traits, I think the traits are more kind of like shaping your backstory of your
an
character than
RPG.
anything, you know.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, well, it kind of makes sense that I'm hunted. So for me, even though it came with like a bad trait, it was like it's kind of more immersive because I feel like my guy, he's like some 40, 50-year-old dude, and yeah, he's probably pissed some people off.
He's got a
I'm
past.
intrigued. What's your character like, James?
Well, I kind of feel like my character would be like a bit like your character, Ben, but he had like a really disgraceful downfall in the world of crime, whereas your guy kind of just disappeared into the background at the height of his sort of powers, as it were. So I chose Neon Street Rat, bit of a not a shady past, but he was just a troublemaker.
Yeah.
He'd been in trouble with the law, and I chose the main trait or the main sort of perks I chose were the space rat one or the space scoundrel one.
Yeah.
So you get persuasion, so you got the gift of the gab, you can talk your way out of a situation. Pistol, because you just would have guns
Trusty.
all the time. Yeah, and I think the other one was piloting. So he's kind of like maybe more of like a Han Solo type, where he's a little bit rough around the edges, but he knows how to talk his way out of a situation. He's good with sort of getting himself out of trouble, but he is a troublemaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I chose.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I can't. It's weird because I don't feel like the character building has made much impact to the way I play the game. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I still play the game pretty much how I want it. Like sometimes I'll go real off track of what my character is supposed to be, like, if that makes sense, and I'll just start doing random shit that isn't sort of like part of him.
Sometimes the dialogue, for instance, like I was trying to picture in my mind like he's a toughened mercenary, and then some of the choices in the dialogue, I know you have a choice, but sometimes the choice of both of them still don't fit how I see my character responding. And I know there's limitations. They had to voice act fucking tens of thousands of hours of dialogue. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't quite fit the rough and gruff kind of guy that I feel like my guy is. And he's like, oh, thanks so much for helping me. It's like, he wouldn't say that. He'd be like, cheers.
Yeah, it'd be good that with like the different types of characters, they had completely different like conversation sets, you know, like different dialogues that actually suited what you chose. Yeah.
I've got a real petty gripe with the game, a quick one.
Go on.
The fucking walk speed. It's either full pelt sprint or it's backwards, almost going backwards, walking. It's so slow and then it's so fast. I just want a middle ground.
Yeah.
Because when I'm indoors and I'm like, I don't know, trying to work my way through a building, I don't want to be full pelt sprinting it about. And I don't want to be walking like I'm strolling about. I just want a middle ground. And
you know why that it's that speed? It's because like when you step out onto a planet and you kind of walk slowly and then like you're walking around and take it. That's what they want, that kind of like immersive, like, oh wow, look at all this incredible.
It's a massive issue in a lot of games, like the walking speed. But you're right, because if I'm walking through a city, I don't want to be sitting there like sprinting around.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to be walking at a snail's pace. It's like
you just want the immersive.
I've also had it where I've got to follow someone,
and you're faster.
The walk is like they're just running away. Not they're walking away.
But that's
and
just
then
such
the run is I'm straight past them. Why not have it in the settings on a slider?
Yeah, walk speed preference.
Walk speed.
I need a fast walker perk. That's what I need.
I did try and find some like command that you can enter into the console, but it just never worked. Some people had it work for them, but it didn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about the game quite a lot, like our experiences so far. But looking ahead and going forward, then, like, what are your thoughts of the game? Like, do you feel? I know we kind of brushed over this a little bit earlier in the episode, but is this the game that you wanted it to be? Are you going to be playing it for a while? Like, how's everyone feel about that? Ben, head to go first.
Yeah, I personally, as much as we may have sort of slagged it off and sung its praises, I am still super happy that I've got my hands on Starfield and I'm having a great time. The more that I'm playing it, the more I'm falling in love with it. I've never fallen in love with a Bethesda game, but this is definitely, for me, it's maybe not living up to all the hype and all the expectations that I had for it.
I don't think any game would have lived up to the hype of Starfield. I do think the hype, if it was a lesser game and it was a bit more buggy, I think it could have not killed the game because people are going to play it ridiculous, but it seems to be riding high right now.
To be fair, like, the game's had actually a really successful kind of early access period in terms of just the pure sales and people playing the game. Loads of people are playing the game at the moment, which is obviously great for Bethesda and Xbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with you, Ben. My expectations for this game were so high. And whether that's a combination, whether that's fucking the snake oil salesman Todd Howard selling me on a dream, me overhyping it in my head, or a combination of the both, I don't think it's quite met what I wanted it to be at the beginning. However, the more I play the game, the more I am appreciating it and understanding it, and therefore liking it. And I am really sort of growing to actually love the game quite a lot. And I find myself, when I'm not playing it, thinking about it, which is a very positive sign, I think. Like, obviously thinking about it positively, wanting to jump back on it and thinking, oh yeah, when I get back on Starfield, I'm going to do this. Like, I don't think about games like that often. It's got to be a special game for me personally to have that kind of level of engagement outside of the time that I'm playing the game. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So, yeah, I think for me, it may not have met all of my expectations, and some things were disappointing. For example, the space travel, even though like I've gotten over it now, but at the beginning, I was disappointed by it. And then there are a bunch of other shit that I don't like about the game, like the menus, the quality of life changes that need to be put into the game, how clunky it is. But it's not enough for me to be turned off from it. Like, ultimately, I don't care about any of that stuff, because if Bethesda come out and said, we're not going to update the game ever again, this is the game as it is from now until the end of time, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, I was expecting this sort of thing to happen and this sort of change. I would still play the game. But, you know, I guess there's always that part of you that thinks, okay, well, hopefully Bethesda address the performance issues, which I'm sure they will, because you cannot have a game running at fucking 35 frames per second on a $5,000 PC. It's not ideal.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just let their modders complete the game like they do with most of their other titles. I think it's exceeded my expectations.
You had quite low expectations for the game.
I tried to be as positive about Starfield as possible, but I've been burnt by that company over and over again. And I was very much a skeptical. I was looking forward to the game. I wanted to play it, and I've always looked at Bethesda like, you've got so much potential. I want to love your games, but you make it so fucking difficult to like your games, unless I mod the game to excess. There's issues with it. There's issues with most games, so I'm not going to be overly. I think the lack of a proper tutorial will turn people off. I think that 3 to 5 hours, I think some people might go, I'm very much in the same camp as you both. The more I play it, the more I like it. I'm gonna love it at some point. I can see
I think
myself.
you said earlier, Connor, that this game in a couple of years' time is going to be completely different. Like
It will
seems
be.
weird to say it now, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how this game develops
Yeah.
with updates from Bethesda and the modding community over the
Yeah.
next couple of years. It's going to be such an insane experience to kind of like sort of be involved in it and see how that happens and that pans out.
What fascinates me is I go onto YouTube and I just look at like the new mods for Skyrim, and I look
Yeah, I'll do
at
that as well.
and then the mods for like Fallout and even like The Witcher I've looked at, and like the modding community, especially on PC. I know there's going to be mods. I think there's going to be mods within the game like they did on console for the other two. Yeah. So in a year's time, 2 years' time, this game will be completely unrecognizable from the modding community. And Bethesda are really good at supporting titles. I think Fallout 3 had 5 DLC packs. I think Skyrim had 3. I think Fallout 4 had a load, and even some of those were just like workshop tools, and that's so you can go and build more stuff. I think that they'll do that, and then there'll be some story DLC. So I think the roadmap for this game for the next 2-3 years is going to be really good, and then potentially I could be playing this game for the rest of my life. The way that modders touch things. That's
like you said, James, this is kind of that RPG that you can really immerse yourself in, like playing Red Dead, that sort of Western fix. This is
live
your
out your spacefaring fantasy that you never will be able to do in another game.
Yeah.
And to wrap it up, Charlie, you kind of talked about it a bit before. You're new to this whole Bethesda RPG thing. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I definitely went in with the least expectations because, I mean, you guys have all been quite hyped for this game for a long time, whereas I kind of went into it a bit blind. Like I've only seen the developer direct.
Yeah.
That's all I've seen of the game, really. I've not watched any other stuff about it or anything like that. So, yeah. So I went in with nothing, and it's surprised me. I think it's
good.
You know, like I said before, you know, I don't think it's particularly user friendly or easy for someone that's not used to playing games like this.
Yeah.
But I think I'm glad that I kept playing because I'm starting to see what it is and get into it.
What I reckon we'll see from you is you're going to turn this into some sort of immersive sim, and you're just going to be like a space trucker.
You're going to get your fucking joysticks,
and you're going to be just doing like
screens all around you,
like piloting missions. You're just going to be like transferring stuff from planet to planet.
Bit of dodgy cargo in the back,
bit of corn hanging out.
But you could literally like do that though. If that's what you want the game to be, you can just be a space hauler and you can just transfer goods. You can transfer illegal cargo if you want. And that's the type of game that it will be for you. And I think
that would be great.
Yeah.
If I could actually fly.
Yeah.
I don't play Euro Truck Simulator and just fucking sim to the next city.
Yeah. That's the gripe. Issue, isn't it? It's not a gripe. It's just the one thing I wish there was that option, even if it was just in the same like
system.
Yeah.
Oh, because obviously I understand like the space is massive. It would take ages to,
but you'd like that option.
Years to get.
You'd like that option.
I think I should be able to fly. I don't know, and I don't know whether you actually can do this. But I visited the moon, and then I thought, I bet I can't even fly to Earth.
Yeah, you can go to Earth. I've landed on Earth.
But no, it means physically fly from the moon.
From the moon.
Take off flight.
No, it's all the same.
Once you're in once you're in space, it's literally just like a box of space that you can't you can continue to fly straight in one direction for a week in real time and you would not get anywhere. You would still be in the same space, and I can see why people have a problem with that. I understand that. For me, it's not so much a problem. But I can see why there would be disappointment there because I was disappointed at first, but I'm just over it now.
Yeah,
but
there's an amazing game series you should maybe check out, Charlie, called the X series, like X4, I think it's a new one. But just amazing space sim. You can travel between systems in real time, be a space long hauler, It's amazing.
Well, one thing I did want to touch on, like, because a big sort of selling point was that you can steal other people's ships and like.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I've done that.
No, I've not tried it, but the fact that you can only do it sort of in orbit of a planet kind of puts me off a bit, because I feel like as soon as you do that, are you not then just going to be attacked by the other ships that are there? And like,
it has to be, the ship has to be immobilized, and obviously, if you're going to dock and you've still got other ships about, then you're obviously going to get killed. So I did it where I had to fight with some pirates. The last ship, I don't know if it was the game sort of doing it for me, but I managed to immobilize it and not kill it. Even though I took its health to 0, it didn't destroy it, just became immobile. And then I could board it, which I did, kill the team. And then I jumped in the cockpit, the cockpit.
Jumped on a cock.
And I could fly the ship. And then it came up with a message saying like, oh, if you fast travel out of the system, this will become your home ship. But then when I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to the frontier now that I've got this other ship in my garage, if you like. But as soon as I undocked and went back to the frontier, I could no longer dock with that other ship or control it or have access to it in any way, shape or form. It was just a derelict ship with 0.
Really?
I couldn't control. So it's like, maybe it's a whole system I don't understand.
Is there a way to
is
there a way to like recall the frontier whilst you're at a spaceport?
I'm just gonna assume that if you get in the stolen ship and fuck off somewhere else, the frontier will just be back at the spaceport
Docked.
at some point, and you can just go to a spaceport and get back in the frontier.
Yeah,
I might start fucking boosting spaceships.
I got hailed. I was in orbit of one planet. I got hailed to a guy that was on his like flying test, and his instructor like had a heart attack or something. I got hailed into the ship, and I'd like healer.
That's well funny.
And he's like the spaceship's spiraling out of control, but it's meant to be this time. And he doesn't know how anything works. He's trying to shut down the shields and stuff like that. And I went on the ship, and then I shot him, and he didn't die. Because I had a healer. And
you shot him?
Yeah, I wanted to steal the ship. It was a cool ship. And then, so I healed her.
Such a fucking scoundrel.
Oh, yeah, I'm a fucking smuggler. I wanted a new ship. Healed her. She was like ever so thankful. And then I blasted her in the face and they killed them both. And then it
you wasted the health pack on it. You should just push her out the fucking airlock.
Yeah. It wouldn't give me the option. It was like, and then I couldn't steal the ship. It was like, oh, you can't fly this ship. I was like, oh, you.
Yeah. I found a pirate.
It might be a different class that you're not able to fly yet.
Yeah, I got hunted. A ship landed on the planet. I killed all the hunters, jumped on their ship, killed some more people who were inside. Tried to jump in the chair, but it was like, you haven't got a high enough piloting skill.
Yeah.
Didn't let me. But anyway.
Bastards, fuck you, Todd.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. If that's right, you guys got anything you want to sign off with, or are you all good?
I've got a couple of other things, but
all right.
I think.
Go on then. Get them out quickly.
I'll get this one done. This is the one I definitely wanted to mention.
Okay.
Their quote-unquote largest city is just making everything bigger. So, for instance, every shop in New Atlantis
is massive.
Is just huge.
With one person in it.
With nothing in it. Yeah. So they've made the city the largest city, but they've literally just spaced everything out and then made everything really, really large. It's not like it's dense. It's not like... Have you been to the residential district in New Atlantis?
No.
Yeah.
It's like 4 skyscrapers and you can throw a stone from one end to the other. And it's like, this is meant to be the entire population of Earth's... Not population. Yeah. The entire population of the human race is like literal headquarters. And I just wanted to see maybe what other games do and just a bit more of like a cityscape that's unreachable. Like, you know, I don't know why, but Death Stranding springs to mind. Back when you're in the first place, you can see there's a whole establishment that's like off in the distance. You can't reach it. But
they could have just put an image on the skybox.
Yeah,
like,
just
they're doing Destiny 2 and Destiny. Like, do you know when you go to the edge of the tower and it looks like all these cities? Yeah. I agree with that.
It's not reachable.
The funny thing is though, because I've said the exact thing about Destiny is why the fuck do they put all these stunning vistas in this game, and I can't go to those places.
Yeah.
So either way, it's shit.
Yeah, it just broke my immersion a little bit, and
I didn't like. I don't like going to some of the cities. Like, there's much more interesting places to go visit. Like New Atlantis, I don't like going there. The only reason I tend to go there is because it's the only place I know where there's a fucking doctor's. I don't know anywhere else in the whole fucking galaxy where I can go see a doctor. That's like the only place I can go.
When you walk
there probably
around,
is one, but I've never come across it.
My character was walking around like she had TB. Sitting there like coughing
all the time, and I'd like, what was it, like lung failure or something?
Yeah.
I huffed in some corrosive. I huffed up some fucking corrosive gas on some random moon, and I was just coughing non-stop.
And you
like every time. Well, I don't know. Every time you cough, like your oxygen is just gone. It's like you can't run. You're just knackered. I literally felt like Arthur in like chapter 4 or chapter 5 whenever it's like TB's well bad.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it then. I'm actually really enjoying what we've played with Starfield so far, and I can't wait to get into some more of it. Anyway, if you want to hear more or see more of us or follow us on socials, join our Discord, then hit the link in the description of this episode. You can find all that good stuff there. Hopefully we'll see you over in those places. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.